Catches the warm. So goes over here, sharp on time. So the first part. Even if you miss it, don't worry. Just experience sharing by one of top HR professionals in the world. Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you? It has to be a better one after sumptuous lunch. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The battle has just begun. The battle between the head and the stomach. So we have to keep the head awake. If you have a sharp object, you can keep the neighbor awake. Otherwise, the strange noises coming from Maligavat timber mills. They will be aware of that. So this is what we are going to do now. Hope not grabbing people from the neck. It's about second G, get right person for the right position. And let me straight talk about the triple fits we talked about yesterday. Technical fit, psychological fit and socio-cultural fit. And the overview, if you have to put it in the broad overview, first you do the job analysis. What is the job for? You analyze the components of the job and you have the job description, detailed list of the job. And the person specification, what type of person you require. And the activity we did in the morning in developing a competency canvas would be extremely relevant here, isn't it? Competency canvas would give you insights to this competency based approach. Are we clear? Then what you do? Attracting and managing applications. You call for applications and you are flooded with applications. Then you have to select candidates, making the appointment and they join. This is what RNS is all about, recruitment and selection, getting the right person for the right position. So if you look at the steps in the recruitment and selection process, it's like a series of hurdles aimed at selecting the best candidate for the job. Series of hurdles you need to climb. So these are some of the hurdles. Planning and forecasting, you need to have a proper plan, recruiting, and then application forms. I mean, you can get knocked off at the application level if the application is not up to the mark. If the application is incomplete, you are knocked off. And then selection tests, you are knocked off. And then interviews, you are knocked off. So finally, best one will be selected. So when you say recruitment and selection, tell me the connection between the two words, recruitment and selection. What is the connection between the two?
Selecting is like where you shortlist the most.
Okay, and how it is connected to recruitment?
Final step of
Recruitment.
one.
Selection begins where recruitment stops. Recruitment stops where collecting applications. Building a pool of applications is the recruitment. And when you have the pool of applications, you pick one. You pick the relevant one. That is selection. So recruitment ends with a pool of applicants. Selection begins with a pool of applicants. So where recruitment ends, selection begins. Agree? And there's an interesting phenomenon called yield pyramid. Historical arithmetic relationship between recruitment leads. How the filtering is taking place, how the narrowing down, how the rejection is how the eliminating is taking place. Statistically, worldwide they have realized leads generated 1,200 and the candidates invited 200. Let's say you put a paper advertisement, management trainees. You get 1,200 applications. Are all equally good? Are all satisfying the requirements? Are all meeting the specs? You reject and you pick only 200. So then what is the ratio? You pick 200 out of 100, so 1,200. So 6 to 1. Out of the 200, you invite them to come for the interview. You send letters asking them to come for an interview. So you send 200 letters, but only 150 came. So the candidate's ratio is 4 to 3. 150 versus 200. So it further comes down. And out of the 150 interview, you make offers for 100 people. This might be a fairly junior level job, which has bulk, say like sales or whatever. So 150 interviewed, 100 were given offers. So what is the ratio? 100 divided by 150 is 3 versus 2. And then you made offers for 100, but only 50 accepted. Why? What is the reason? 100 were given the opportunity, but only 50 accepted. They would have got some other employment by now. They would have employed elsewhere. So only 50 accept. So here it's a sign that you might not be the most attractive employer. There might be other employers. So see, 1,200 became 50. The yield pyramid. I can give a living example. When I applied for Unilever, there were 3,000 applicants, and finally only one management trainee was selected. It's even steeper. I mean, even shorter in terms of height, isn't it? 3,000 ended up having one. I still remember we had an admission test, we had series of interviews, and the final interview there were 5. I was the only local candidate, other 4 were foreign graduates, and it was only me who was picked. I still remember. So the point is what? Yield was so high. Out of 3,000, only one got picked. So this is usually what's happening. The elimination process, knocking off process, it shows that a good company should not be desperate in grabbing whoever comes. It has to be selective because it's an investment for future. Can you remember we looked at it in term 1? If you want to plan for 1 year, plant a crop. If you want to plan for 3 years, plant a tree. If you want to plan for 10 years, plant people. How do you plant people? You dig a cavity in the soil and put person from the neck and put some fertilizer and fill with soil. Is that how you do? Then you will end up in jail. How do you plant people? Investing in people, getting the right person for the right job. This is how you do that. So selection of people. Townley said something very interesting. Shall you all read out? Hire for attitude, train for aptitude. Shall we read out the details? Increasing emphasis placed on the attitudinal and behavioral characteristics of employees, which readily lend themselves to monitoring through selection and performance reviews. Do you agree with this? Hire for attitude, train for aptitude. That's what the research has found to be far more effective. If you do the other way around, hire for aptitude and take a guy with wrong attitude, you had it. It's like introducing a virus to your system. So, have you seen people with high capability with wrong attitude are far more dangerous than people with low capability but right attitude. So, hire for attitude, train for aptitude. This is what we do in management training program. This is what we do in technical training program. This is what we do in financial training program. Any program with the word trainee is all about picking people with the right attitude and groom them in-house so that they would be developed to take higher positions. Agree with me? Sound good? Make sense? Are you sleeping? I thought you'd say yes to that as well. Okay? Right. Eric Klein, Director of Worldwide Staffing at Silicon Graphics. I think the Leanne in the video we just saw in Google has somewhat similar idea to Eric Klein. This is what he had to say. Shall we read out what Eric Klein says? In interviews, I give people an opportunity to be fun, to show their sense of humor. We look for people's passion, what they have done with their lives. The guy who took a year off after his MBA to play the violin or travel in the world. In other words, you check the people's attitude, not just the technical stuff. So in order to satisfy the need, we have to do 3 things. Identify, specify and codify. First you do a proper job analysis in identifying the requirement. Then you further zoom it down to do specification, job profile, and further tailor it to the hiring specification, the candidate requirement. So the competency canvas will be very useful in doing that, what we did before lunch. Are we clear? So what are the 3 things you need to do? Identify, specify and codify. Then you have the real hiring spec. Say when you order a good, when you put forward a purchase order, you need to have a specification. Spec If the spec is wrong, the product you get is wrong. If the spec is incorrect, the product you get might be improper. So same thing appears to individual selection. Have the proper specification. Hiring specification. I have seen some organizations put a big paper advertisement for certain positions. After some months, students come and ask me that they have applied and no response. So when I call the head of HR or CEO, they say, well, we decided that position is not relevant to us anymore. Having put the paper, having decided all, so the whole point is that they are not professional. Hiring spec is not very clear. There's something wrong with the whole process. Are we clear? Okay. Selection process is a several steps. Shall we read out just to keep away? Step 1, application. And what is the purpose? Information for interview. What is the action? Shortlisting of candidates. You eliminate the junk and pick the relevant ones. Rather sad to say, in our part of the world, they have this peculiar habit. Any employment opportunity, people keep on applying in bulk. Whether it's really relevant to them or not, they desperately apply. So when you have a whole heap of applications, so whole heap of emails, more than half of them is junk. So you have to separate, which are not according to the spec. Second step, screening interview. What is the purpose? Evaluation of suitability. What is the action? Select the potential employee. Because sometimes the application itself might not be good enough. You might have a nice spiral bound Concora paper with color printouts, and from the application you look like you are the superhero in the world. You are the super heroine in the world. But in reality, when you talk to them, you see the gaps. So the spiral bound application might be misleading. You need to have the screening interview to see whether the real person truly deserves the job. Third step, testing, measuring of competencies and personality. What is the action? Assessing the strengths and shortcomings. There's a whole heap of tests available, IT based, manual based. We will talk about it in a little while. Where testing is absolutely necessary. You have to pick the right person. Next step. Yeah.
The second step.
Yes.
It is avoiding the first step or?
No, after this. I mean, these are all series of hurdles. You get 1,000 applications, half of them are eliminated at the beginning. Then, even from the selected ones, you conduct screening interviews. So, step by step, you are eliminating. So, with like the yield pyramid, now you start with the base and you are narrowing it down. And then the fourth one, background. So, what does that mean? Check the truthfulness of application. So, what is the action? Ensure the accuracy. Sometimes you ask for original certificates of the qualifications, or you might call the referees, check the references. Sometimes if it is a low job, you ask the person to bring a police certificate or a grammar sevaka certificate or whatever. You check. I mean, you want some external validity, external confirmance, external assurance that the person is authentic, person is genuine. Sometimes you say, bring a character certificate, you bring a referral from the previous organization, or give us 3 contact numbers from previous organization for us to call and check. And the person might come and say, as if I did wonders in the previous organization, and you give a very rosy picture. But when you call the company, well, yes, he was there, and no, nothing much. So completely different interpretation. The perceptions are not matching the reality. See the point? And then, come on out loud. In-depth interviews. What is the purpose? Find out more detail. What is the action? Further shortlisting. And then, physical examination, medical verification, more for compliance, and finally, so the physical examination is an optional one. Not a knocking off thing actually, but sometimes even the knocking off can happen. How many of you will have to go through a physical examination? Everybody. Because sometimes there was a real case in a multinational in Sri Lanka. They shortlisted hiring a ruggerite, a very athletic person, and he was the best in that batch. And when he went for the medical examination, for everyone's surprise, he was found to have a hole in the heart. There was a huge heart issue. And then that is a very good detection, and the company was compassionate and they helped him to overcome that issue by some treatment. So sometimes the physical examination also, sometimes we don't know what's inside us unless we do some examination. And finally, job offer, agree on full package. You might have a discussion based on the package. Perhaps the first time and the last time you get the opportunity to negotiate what you get from the organization. The moment you enter, no negotiation, you have to be happy what you get from the organization. Okay? Is that the case? So these are some of the steps. And this is what is something very interesting. What David Ogilvy, have you heard about David Ogilvy? Who is David Ogilvy? The favorite advertising tycoon who created Ogilvy advertising. And this is what he had to say. Shall we read out? If each of us hires people who are smaller than we are, we shall become a company of dwarfs. But if each of us hires people who are bigger than we are, we will become a company of giants. Remember, recruitment is a critical choice whether to have dwarfs or to have giants. Rather sad to say, some directors, some leaders are scared to recruit someone smarter than them, someone more competent than them, someone having better capabilities, because they feel insecure. And in the government circle, this happens a lot. So you are more concerned about keeping your position than about the future of your organization. So as a result, good people get knocked off, some lenient, incompetent, loyal people get the, which is very, very sad thing. So you have to give the opportunity. My personal view is that if I see someone better than me, someone who can outsmart me, I would strategically have a tie-up with that person and make my team stronger. Because it's not one man or one woman show, it's one team show. One team show. That's the way. Okay? So otherwise you will have a company of dwarfs, not a company of giants. And sometimes it's very happy to see some leaders are very visionary, not visionary, and they say, I took the company to this level, I want someone better than me, someone who is more capable than me to take the company to the next level. So I want a giant, not a dwarf. That should be your approach. Agree? That's what Bill Gates did with Steve Ballmer. When he handed over Microsoft to Steve Ballmer took it to a high level. Now Steve Ballmer stepped down and gave it to the next person who took it even to a high level. That's what Steve Jobs did. Steve Jobs handed it over to the next level. That's what Andy Grove in Intel did. That's what Michael Dell in Dell did. Develop the second in command and then hand over to take it to a high level. Okay? Agreed? Right. Now let's talk about briefly about tests. Some simple tests. I will not take much time, then we will go for some group work. Interesting group activities. Okay? Shall we read out? A good test is one that provides valid data that enable reliable predictions of behavior, of performance to be made, and thereby making objective and reasoned decisions. Three things. If you do a proper test, the test should give you the result, this person is good or this person is bad, this person is suitable, this person is not suitable. So the test should be a predictor of what is the real situation. I'll give a simple example. When you go to apparel industry, garment factories, to select the sewing operators, the young girls, they have a very simple test. They have a wooden board, size of a laptop keyboard, and there are some holes created, some cavities in different colors. Then you have a set of pegs. They are in a bundle, different colors. So the candidate is supposed to pick the right color peg and put to the right hole, right slot. And the supervisor is there with a stopwatch. And the stopwatch is picked on, and the person is supposed to put the right peg and put the right. And the supervisor measures the time it takes for the person to pick the right color peg to the right color hole. It's a very simple thing, but it measures what? Hand-eye brain coordination. How the brain coordinates hands and the eye. And the shorter the period, the more coordinated the person is. Faster the person does, more efficient the person is. So that simple test is a predictor about how the person would be a good, but so operator, how the person would act like a good sewing operator, simple as that. So this is one way of measuring. Interesting. This is relevant to research as well. Reliable but not valid. Have you seen this bullseye? Sometimes these cowboys, they shoot bullseye. This famous guy with this not Asterix, there was this the cartoon guy. Can't remember. There's this one wearing the big hat. Not Asterix. Cowboy with the cowboy, you know, this nice cartoon. Okay. Like in this Woody having a cigar and then this hat and then
Popeye.
Popeye?
Not Popeye.
No, not Popeye. There's a nice name, no? Kind of who goes in a. There's a song also. I can't remember. So the idea is now. What is the aim?
Kaudugood.
Kaudu. No, that is the English name. But I can't remember the name. Yeah. So the point is, here is the target. Here's the target, isn't it? Now what happens in this first place? Here is the target and all the shots are outside but in a particular area. So in other words, there is some consistency but not valid. In other words, you aim at a particular place but not the real target. But aiming is happening in a... So in other words, it's reliable. You are using a particular test, it measures something very reliably, but the measurement is not really valid because it does not hit the simple example. Say you have a weighing scale and you get into the weighing scale, the ladies who are figure conscious, oh my god, it has given me extra weight. And next time when you get into the weighing scale, again the same weight. So it's 10 kilos higher than your actual weight. But every time when you measure, it's 10 kilos higher than your actual weight. So what is the point? It's very reliable, but not the accurate one. It's reliable but not valid. It's consistently giving the wrong figure. That's one aspect in a test. Okay. Second aspect, it's very closer to the target, but always scatters around. Always scatters around. Valid, but not reliable. Why? Every time, say when you get into the weighing scale, it says 55 kilos. And after 2 days, you get into the weighing scale, it says 45 kilos. And the next day, it says 60 kilos. So, around 55, but not reliable. So, both are bad. So, what should happen? Valid and reliable. Should hit the bullseye consistently all the time. So, validity means should hit the bullseye, reliability means consistent every time. Every time you perform the test, it should give the right result. Say you go for a health test, you go for a medical test, it checks your cholesterol level. Can the doctor say, okay, you are having high cholesterol today, and you do it after 1 week, it has drastically gone down, and you do it after another week, it has again gone up. So something wrong, isn't it? So there has to be consistently. So this is the way we should test. Now the example I took last night, if you want to test a driver's capability, obviously you don't give a PowerPoint presentation, 7 habits of highly effective drivers. And you don't do that because that's not the valid and reliable approach, isn't it? See the point? So the test that you select should be valid and reliable. Simple example, you want to select a stenographer. In one company that I was working, there was one A4 sheet, a description in A4 sheet. This A4 sheet was given to the stenographer and told her that there are certain mistakes in this sheet. You have to circle the mistakes in red color. So she was given a red pen. And the HR department knew there are exactly 100 mistakes in that one A4 sheet. And then you give time, 15 minutes, and you check how many mistakes were spotted. So the first candidate spotted 20 mistakes, third candidate spotted 50 mistakes, the fourth candidate spotted 70 mistakes, but still no one spotted all. So it's easy, 20 out of 100, 30 out of 100, 55 out of 100, 70 out of 100. So you can easily score. Just counting the number of, see how easy, how reliable, how consistent, how efficient. So you have to design tests such a manner that easy to manage, easy to administer, it will achieve the result. Sounds good? Types of tests. Intelligent tests. Have you gone through an intelligent test? IQ paper. General test, memory, vocabulary. You are supposed to answer. Now, those who get registered for American exams, they have GMAT. GMAT, even there's another one called SAT, SAT, Scholastic Aptitude Test. If you go for a master's in US, you have to sit for a SAT test or GMAT, GRE, whatever. Those are all multiple choices. You are given a paragraph, and we did a sample of that in your admission test, GMAT type of thing. And the aptitude test, mental abilities, essay, numerical analysis, and so on. Some tests. And then motor abilities, finger dexterity, how the hand-eye brain coordination. Say for example, a sewing operator, as I mentioned, has to use the thread across the needle, just to ensure that. So you need to have that sharpness and the reaction time. How much time you take to switch off something, to save a rejected quantity, sometimes the reaction time. And also when you have to press a button, when you have to control something, the reaction time, your brain-hand coordination, isn't it? And the second one, physical abilities, static strength and dynamic strength. What is the main difference? Static strength and dynamic strength. Static strength means a strength that you have to use for a longer period of time consistently. Say if you are holding something for a long period of time, if you are a military guard near a VIP residence, you have to be there for 8 hours standing. That's static strength. Whereas you might lift something and put it aside. That's called dynamic strength. And then body coordination, stamina. Say for a soccer player, you need more stamina than a cricket player. Why? Cricket player might come and play, he might come and bat and go. But soccer player right throughout is in the field, isn't it? So stamina. Certain jobs require more stamina. So take a simple question like this. Driver turns this way, which gear will turn the same way as drive, A or B? And if driver turns clockwise, A turns anti-clockwise and B turns clockwise. Obviously, like this simple diagram. So it will check the logical reasoning of the candidate. And the granddaddy of all those things are called assessment center. So what is an assessment center? You combine all those things as a battery of assessment, testing on work-related activities, individuals as well as groups. Higher predict of future performance. Research has found that an assessment center is the best way of testing your suitability, your fitness, your appropriateness. It's not just one test, it is not just one interview, it's an assortment of different things bundled together. Do you all contact assessment centers?
Not in the current company, but
In the previous company. So this is the most accurate, the most desirable, the latest and most advanced way of selecting people. So what is the speciality here? Can I finish it in half an hour? Now the Google HR boss said they had series of interviews, sometimes 8, 9, because all of them are part of larger assessment center. How do you do that? Duration of the center, sometimes 1 day or half a day. Location, you select the location, ideally closer to the real life situation. A number of candidates, 5 maybe too few, or more than 8 needs more monitoring, because each candidate has to be recorded, monitored, assessed, properly studied. So it's a very time consuming, resource draining exercise. Anyone has gone through an assessment center in getting selected? You have gone. So what is the campaign?
They give various of.
So what is the campaign?
It was in Norwegian.
Norwegian campaign. So they gave how many different?
I went through around 5 different.
Okay, so what is the duration?
Each one was different.
So they were happening at different times.
Different times.
All right, interesting. So the and candidate background and compatibility of past experience. You have to design the assessment center to suit the request I remember I ran an assessment center for Sri Lankan Airlines. I ran an assessment center for another organization where we sat together and designed the exact requirement of the job. And then you identify certain activities to test those requirements. Okay? Number, mix and the experience of assessors. HR alone can't do that, you have to bring people. For example, in-basket simulation, one activity. What is in-basket simulation? Shall you read out? The candidate asks dispose appropriated by an accumulation of memos, reports, notes of phone messages, letters by writing letters and so on. So in other words, you are given a real business situation. You are asked to send an email, you are asked to send a fax, you are asked to develop a memo, and you have to do that within the given time, and you have to save it, take a printout, and you are as if you are doing a real job. So what sort of job that do you think you can test like that? Accounts, administration, secretarial, managerial. So you have to select the appropriate test. We are looking for a sales manager who is not afraid to take some risks. I hope this is not happening in the Middle Eastern markets. Sample activities, group discussion, which is a very common one. Group discussion. I remember when I joined Unilever, they had an assessment center, even at that time. So there were 5 of us. We were given a case lead to study, and the panel was sitting behind and observing our behavior. And those were the final past shortlisted candidates. And there was one person who was very talkative, who was very dominating. Another person who was very silent, didn't speak at all. And we were showing our various ways of interaction. And then the HR director said, one of you all would be asked to stand up and present the case with issue and recommendation. And then we were excited because we didn't know who that person could be. At the end of the 20 minutes, HR director said, Mr. Dharamsiri, would you like to stand up and present the solutions and the issue and the recommend? So I was a guinea pig, but finally it helped me to be the chosen one. So the point is group discussion. By doing that, what do they measure? What do they measure? Your what? Team contribution. How you behave as a team member, and how you can do what? Come on. Listen to others. How you can respect others. How you can reach a consensus. All those things can be measured in a proper. Even sometimes they might record your discussion and see how each one behaves. And also management games. Participants are required to solve problems. There can be some outdoor games. Now this outward bound training, you can have some sample activities like that. Have you been to any outward bound training where you go to a jungle and you do some adventurous things and you behave sometimes like animals and you come back to office and still behave like animals? So I personally prefer inward bound than outward bound. Inward bound is more inner tranquility, more self-awareness, like we learnt in OB, emotional intelligence. And objective test of mental ability, personality. Can you remember the self-assessment library we had? Don't forget it. And those learnings I hope are useful. Those are lifelong learnings. SAL, self-assessment library. And then projective test. This is something very interesting. You are given a picture, and then based on the way you describe the picture, you are really revealing yourself. I think we talked about it in personality, no? Thematic perception, the testing. In other words, you give a funny picture, ambiguous picture. The way you describe, you are not really talking about the picture, you are talking about yourself. That's a point. Okay? So the critical success factors. AC will not work unless there is organization-wide commitment. Don't take me wrong, HR alone cannot do that. You need organization-wide support. For example, Commercial Bank ran an assessment center recently. They invited all their trained assessors who are senior managers on a Saturday. Entire Saturday, they brought about 50 people and they divided panels, and they were occupying different rooms in our institute. PIM, they hired PIM, and they conducted the assessment center, taking several classrooms, one full day, Huge activity. Clear information regarding skills and behavior. Sometimes if you design it wrongly, you get wrong results. Designing part, picking the right tests. Sometimes you have a IQ test or you have a creativity test, but the real job doesn't need IQ or creativity that much. It needs more understanding and empathy. So you have to pick the right test to suit the right requirement. That's why the competency campus is very much relevant. Agree? And precise design, standardization. Because what happens is different panels might give different marks. So if the panels are not consistent, some might be over-favored, some might be unduly under-favored. So how to prevent that? Say each candidate is assessed by a panel. So how to prevent any undue advantage or disadvantage? Standardizing by every candidate is assessed by more than one panel. So when you go round, then even if one panel gives you a wrong mark, another panel might give, battery has gone, higher mark, yes, battery low. Okay, I think I can get on till. So the point is that there has to be consistency. Availability of administrative system, a good IT system, you feed in the marks and you consolidate and you get a final composite report. There are different, usually they keep spare batteries, no? Today no. So you compile and you get the final score. Are we clear? Sounds good? Establish a procedure to ensure efficient and ethical use of information. Sometimes the information you gather from the assessment center should not be divulged to outsiders. It's confidential because whether someone is selected or not, the details should not be divulged to outside party. Are we clear? By doing that, we ensure we pick the right candidate. I hope this is not happening in the Middle Eastern countries. Now, as part of the company policy, the parent is going to interview you. I hope not. Interview. Now we come to the crux of the matter. I know this part is a little technical, that's why I went fast. You can read and find from the book. Interviewing. Why do you do an interviewing? How many of you have sat in an interview panel in picking others? Just raise your hand. Was that a pleasurable experience or a pathetic experience? Interesting.
Yes.
When you see the other person, when you see the other party. So what do you do essentially? Three things. Shall we say? What are the three things? Define, discover and decide. You define what you really want and you discover and you decide what is happening.
We don't have this.
Sorry?
We don't have this slide.
It's not there. Interview. How does it end?
We end up at the mapping.
Okay, so this part is not there, okay? Just one, that's all. Behavioral interview. So one fascinating aspect of interviewing is called behavioral interviewing. Before going into details, there's a myth in some part of the world where the top leaders think they know how to interview, Abhinavan interview. But in reality, they don't know the nitty-gritties, the professional aspect they need to look into. One mistake is that they think they know, but in reality they don't know. So one very powerful component in an interview is called behavioral interviewing. So I'm going to show you a video, watch it very carefully, how to do a proper behavioral interview. To be sensitive to the candidate's behavior, to be aware of various responses, various bodily, physically observations that you can make, and then how to determine the best candidate. Again, the 3 Ds. So what are 3 Ds? Define, discover and decide. So sit back and enjoy behavioral interview. I must tell you that we have the purchased video of this back at HRM DVD, but here I am using a preview version, so there's a word preview copy comes down, don't worry. So this is called behavioral interview. Here we go.
So, Peter, I'm really sorry I didn't sort of... So, Peter, I'm really sorry I didn't sort of, work out like we, I mean, these things happen. It's not like it's anybody's fault. It's just, well, no reflection on... You know what I mean?
No.
Exactly. So, thanks anyway, and good luck. What? Oh, hi. Peter's replacement, we're down to 2 candidates, right?
Yeah. Kate Gardner and Mark Wellingford. What's the matter?
I hate departure interviews, especially with people I've just sacked.
You ought to be used to it by now.
Oi, don't rub it in.
How long was Peter here?
A little under 4 months. Maybe I'll have more luck this time.
Luck. Did you say luck?
Yes, luck. How was I to know Peter would turn out to be such a problem?
Well, you interviewed him.
Yes, I know
And
that.
you insisted on doing it on your own.
Yes, I know, but there are certain things you can't spot in an interview.
Such as?
Well, how they actually fit in with the team. How they'll behave.
Well, not if you don't ask, no.
Well, no, I asked all the right questions. He seemed fine.
And?
He just got the other department's backs up. Couldn't see beyond his own job. Treated the other managers like they were imbeciles. And of course nothing was ever his fault. It was always somebody else who let him down.
And you couldn't have found that out when you interviewed him?
No way.
Did you draw up a list of what you were looking for?
Of course, I am a trained manager. I did the selection interview course.
And what was on the list?
Range of equipment he'd worked with, knowledge of business programs, experience with servers.
What about personal qualities? Like how he got on with people?
You can't find that out in an interview.
You sure?
Absolutely. Can you?
Well, some people can.
Oh, you mean psychics?
No. People who know the technique.
There's a technique.
It's called behavioural interviewing.
Another piece of HR jargon.
But it works.
How?
You listed what you needed in professional terms. Now list the personal qualities. What sort of person are you looking for? Draw up a behavioural profile. So what personal qualities must the candidate have?
Well, intelligent, efficient, calm under pressure, good people skills, creative, enterprising, natural leader.
Right. What if the Archangel Gabriel hasn't applied for the job?
Sorry?
If you're looking for perfection, you're never going to fill the post. You need to look at the key qualities, the ones that spell disaster if they're missing.
Oh well, they've got to be up with the latest technology, know the product range, experience with in-house servers.
No, those aren't behavioural qualities. They could have all of those and still be a disaster, like Peter. Look, your unit has a really good reputation, doesn't it? Apart from selection skills, I mean.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, what makes it special? Different from run-of-the-mill IT units?
Well, I'll tell you. We're very informal. We're very open. We're always talking to the departments we service. Treat them like valued customers. Ask them what they'd like. Discuss new software purchases with them. Arrange maintenance schedules to suit them. Maximum flexibility.
And that's unusual?
Almost unheard of. Most IT managers see themselves as keepers of a lunatic asylum.
Anything else?
Yes, we spend a lot of money, so you've got to be good at getting value. And accept responsibility. That was one of Peter's problems. Nothing was ever his fault.
Right, now we're getting somewhere. Let's focus on the qualities that rule a candidate out if they haven't got them. The deal breakers. Now, they seem to be consulting with others, flexible planning, good cost controlling, and accepting responsibility.
Right.
Anything else?
Well, quite a few, I suppose, but those are the real deal breakers.
So why didn't you find out about those with Peter?
I did. As much as you can.
Really?
And I did the manufacturer's new software maintenance course as well.
Good. Excellent. Now, this job requires a lot of consultation with other departments. Are you good at consultation?
I certainly am.
Because it's very important.
I couldn't agree more. Name off the game.
Have you had much experience of it in your present job?
Absolutely, do it all the time.
Great. Now, tell me about your approach to planning.
I always see good planning as the foundation of management.
And what do you call good planning? Give me an example.
Working out a good plan and sticking with it.
And suppose some people didn't like it.
Well, they just...
I mean, you'd agree that you've got to have a certain amount of flexibility, wouldn't you?
Oh, of course.
So you'd adjust your plan if it was causing real inconvenience to someone.
Oh, yes, you have to.
Good. Good. And do you talk to people before drawing up a plan? Do you check it out with the people affected? Do you give everyone sufficient notice? Do you build in revision time? Are you good at keeping to time scales?
Yes.
I suppose someone lets you down. Do you bawl them out in front of the others or get them in to talk about it?
Oh, get them in for a talk.
Excellent. Well, that takes care of that then. Now, cost controlling. Are you good at that?
I am actually, yes.
And do you give early warnings to management if you see you're running into a budget problem? Well, I'm sure you do. Could you give me an example of a budget crisis that you've had to deal with?
I don't think I've had any.
No, come on, Peter. Every experienced manager has had cost overruns, unless they over budget wildly.
I see what you mean. Yes, we did have a problem in my previous job. There'd been an underestimate on hardware requirements.
Whose underestimate?
Well, it was a mixture.
Anyway, these things happen. What did you do?
Well, we produced a revised budget and presented it to management, and they accepted it.
So that was all right?
Yes, no problem.
Good. Now, how about accepting responsibility?
That goes with the territory, doesn't it?
I mean when things go wrong.
Especially when things go wrong.
Can you give me an example? Because there's nothing worse than managers who blame everyone else.
What do you mean by an example?
Well, some incident.
What sort of incident?
Any sort of incident where things went wrong.
I don't think it's a question of incidents. I think it's a question of attitude. Now, if you're a manager, you have to accept that things are down to you. No good trying to wriggle out of it. The buck stops here, you know?
Good point. Good point. Can you give me an instance of where you've handled conflict?
Can't think of any actual instances offhand.
Well, I suppose you got a lot of aggro from the line managers over something.
Oh, I'd get them round a table and talk it through with them. It's usually just a misunderstanding. You know what line managers are like.
Indeed I do. Well, I think that's about it. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask? You see, I did everything I could. Covered all the areas. What more could I have done?
Do you really want to know?
Yes.
Okay, well, if you want to find out how people are actually going to behave in real situations, then you need to find out how they actually have behaved in real situations. So the first thing is find things they've done, things they're proud of, or things that were difficult or highly pressurised. Critical incidents.
But I did that. I asked about the budget crisis, about accepting responsibility.
And what did that tell you?
Well, it was pretty reassuring.
Really?
Oh, yes. What did you do?
Well, we produced a revised budget and presented it to management, and they accepted it.
So that was all right?
Yes, no problem.
So what did Peter actually do?
Well, they...
Not they. Peter himself. You've got to concentrate on the candidate. I, not we.
But I did that when I asked him about taking responsibility.
Oh, yes, you did. That was a real humdinger.
What do you mean by an example?
Well, some incident.
What sort of incident?
Any sort of incident where things went wrong.
I don't think it's a question of incidents. I think it's a question of attitude. Now, if you're a manager, you have to accept that things are down to you.
So what was the incident?
Well, he didn't, sort of want to say.
So you let yourself be deflected into easy generalities. You've got to stick to what actually happened to him.
Isn't that a bit sort of pushy? A bit rude?
No, it's inquisitive, but not nosy. Avoid general theories, stick to the past tense, what he actually did. Oh, you fell into another trap as well, the hypothetical answer.
What do you mean?
You're trying to find out what he actually did. You let him fob you off with what he says he would do.
Okay, so that's it.
No, there's something else. Do you think the candidate ought to know what answers you want?
No, of course not.
So why did you tell him?
When?
Several times. You told him what mattered in the job. You gave him simple choices. You asked him leading questions. So of course you got the answers you were looking for. You have to hide your hand.
Now, this job requires a lot of consultation with other departments. Are you good at consultation?
I certainly am.
Because it's very important.
I couldn't agree more. Name off the game.
Well, he was hardly going to say he was bad at it, was he?
No, but people don't.
So don't ask it. But it may emerge from an incident. And take a look at this.
I mean, you'd agree that you've got to have a certain amount of flexibility, wouldn't you?
Oh, of course.
So you'd adjust your plan if it was causing real inconvenience to someone?
Oh, yes, you have to.
Well, he wasn't going to say no to that one either, was he? Don't ask leading questions. Oh, and there was something worse. One of the classics.
And do you give early warnings to management if you see you're running into a budget problem? Well, I'm sure you do.
Answering your own question. You don't really need an interviewee, do you? You could just do both parts yourself. Point taken?
Okay, so I've got to focus on critical incidents and not let them know where I'm coming from. Is that it?
That's it. But not all of it.
There's more.
How long was that interview?
It's quite long. Over 20 minutes.
Is that all?
Look, interviewing may be your job, but it's not mine. I've got a department to run. I haven't got time to spare, you know? Time is money.
And how much money has it cost to get rid of Peter? And recruit his successor and train them? Not to mention the cost of antagonised colleagues and a demoralised team. There's one more rule. You were in a hurry, weren't you?
Well, I haven't got all day.
It showed.
How?
Look at this.
And do you talk to people before drawing up a plan? Do you check it out with the people affected? Do you give everyone sufficient notice? Do you build in revision time? Are you good at keeping to time scales?
Yes.
Good questions. Pity you didn't have time to answer them.
Well, there was a lot to get through.
And you certainly got through it. Never ask multiple questions. And even more important, don't rush to fill in the silences.
But it's embarrassing.
Then let him be embarrassed. It quite often throws up some useful guidelines, but not if you keep charging in. You've got to tough out those silences.
There'd been an underestimate on hardware requirements.
Whose underestimate?
Well, it was a mixture.
Anyway, these things happen.
Was it his underestimate?
Might have been.
Wasn't it worth waiting to find out?
Alright, next lesson.
No, that's about it.
So, apart from everything I said, I did okay.
You are no worse than most people before they know the technique. After all, managers aren't appointed for their interviewing skills. Now, do you think you can remember the 4 rules?
Let me try. Create a behavioural profile. Focus on critical incidents. Hide your hand. Take your time. Do you know, I think I've got that.
Good. Now all you've got to do is do it, for real.
Well, at least this one's not going to be all that difficult, is it?
Where's that?
Well, it's pretty obvious Mark Wallingford's the one. First class application, very impressive CV.
What's wrong with Kate Gardner's?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just, well, a bit colourless, isn't it?
So we're looking for the candidate who writes the best application forms and CVs.
Well, no, but you know what I mean.
Peter's CV was very impressive, wasn't it?
Well, yes.
Right, look, I'll tell you what, I'll do the behavioural section with Mark and then you can take over that bit with Kate, okay? Now, can you remember what we're looking for? The deal breakers.
Oh. Yes.
Have you got them down?
Just remind me.
Consulting with others, flexible planning, good cost controller, accepts responsibility.
Got it.
Good. See you tomorrow.
And have you had many breakdown crises?
Well, we've had breakdown problems, obviously, but not many crises. I think that's because I'm very strict about keeping documentation up to date.
Good. Excellent. Oh, Diana, anything?
Thanks. Mark, could you tell me about a time when you had to work under extra pressure?
There was the time we had to upgrade the server and install new PCs in all the departments.
What made it pressurised?
Well, the whole system had to be taken down for 8 hours. The departmental managers didn't like that at all. Typical.
So what did you do?
Well, I had to do my job, so there wasn't much I could do.
Did you speak to any of the managers?
One of them came to see me, and I told him if he didn't like it, he'd have to take it out with the MD.
What was your exact role?
I had to make sure the upgrade took place and that all the new PCs were installed.
And how did you go about it?
I searched on the internet for the cheapest supplier and then ordered the new server and the PCs.
Were they the best for your needs?
Give or take. It was a great price.
What was your biggest problem?
Oh, the line.
Why?
Every time we tried to take them offline to install a new PC, it was never convenient, even though they were complaining about the wait. Then I got a barrage of complaints when I told them that the whole system had to be taken down for a day to install the new server.
So how did you plan for the installation?
I produced a spreadsheet of all the departments, and then I talked to the managers about which day and time their department was scheduled for the changeover, but they were forever trying to change it.
What was the worst complaint you had to deal with?
Oh, finance manager. Apparently they were doing the month-end accounts when they were taken offline, and he came storming into my office blowing his top.
What did he say?
And he said, what the hell did I think I was doing, and I better get him online immediately or he'd report me to the MD.
And what did you say?
I said it wasn't my fault. And he could do what he liked because the MD asked me to do the job in the first place.
What happened then?
Well, he stormed out, and I spoke to one of my people and got them to get him back online and change him around with marketing.
Did you manage to complete on time?
Yeah, more or less. We overran a bit.
How much?
Give or take. Within the contingency allowance.
Completely within it.
Not completely.
So, how much?
Well, give or take. Between 5, 6 weeks.
Whose fault was that?
Well, there were problems with the equipment.
Should you have chosen something more expensive? Why do you think you had problems?
No, the equipment was fine if it was treated properly. It's just some of my crowd were a bit cack-handed. But the line managers were worse.
In what way?
Oh, constantly complaining about the equipment and bitching about the disruption and demanding schedule changes.
So that's what we found out about Mark. 3 failures to consult, 3 failures to show flexibility, 2 failures to accept responsibility, and a clear sign of naive cost controlling. 2 more crosses.
He looked so good till you started.
There are some jobs he would have been right for.
But not this one.
No. Now, Kate Gardner, are you happy with the behavioural questioning role?
Focus on critical incidents, hide your hand, and take your time.
Very good. And the list of key qualities?
Done that.
And you lecture on IT?
Yes, not professionally, just the business studies course at the local college.
How regularly?
Oh, I haven't got a contract or anything, but they do seem to keep asking me back.
Alistair?
Thanks. Kate, could you tell me about a time when you had to work under pressure?
Well, there was the time when we had to upgrade the server and install new PCs in all the departments.
Was that an expensive operation?
Oh, horrendous. Even the cheapest cost a fortune, and the lowest price isn't always the cheapest in the long run.
Who was responsible for the budget?
I was.
How did you set a budget?
I looked through the catalogues, and then I rang a few friends of mine who'd worked with different systems, and 2 of them gave me an on-site demonstration of the 2 most promising, and there wasn't really much difference between the 2, but it did give me leverage to negotiate a good discount.
What made it pressurised?
Well, we had to take the whole system down for at least 8 hours. None of the departmental managers like that at all, and I don't blame them.
So what did you do?
We had to schedule it for an overnight run.
Whose decision was that?
That was mine.
What was your precise role?
I had to manage the whole project, staffing, budget, scheduling, the lot.
How did you go about planning it?
Well, I started by talking to all the managers about what their needs were from the equipment and asked them when the least inconvenient time was for them to go offline. And that meant I could prioritise the work, and then I got the staff together to see who was prepared to work overnight. And we managed it.
On time?
Yes. There was a time when we thought we might overrun, but it was okay in the end.
What happened?
Well, everything was going completely fine, and with 2 hours to go, the whole system completely crashed.
Whose fault was that then?
One of our installers missed that software package, needed a patch for the upgrade. But it was my fault, really. He was new to the job, and I should have gone through a checklist with him before we went live.
And how did the department managers react?
Well, I won't pretend that they were happy, but they were sympathetic, really. They're quite an understanding lot.
So that's Kit. 2 good instances of cost control, 2 of consultation with others, 2 examples of flexibility, and a good example of accepting responsibility.
And you weren't bad either. Some very good examples of constructing a behavioural profile, focusing on critical incidents, hiding your hand, and taking your time. That's all there is to it.
Create a behavioural profile. Don't look for perfection.
And focus on the deal breakers.
Focus on critical incidents.
Concentrate on what the candidate did. I, not we. And stick with the past tense. No general theories and no hypothetical answers.
Hide your hand.
Don't reveal what you're looking for. No leading questions, and don't answer your own questions or offer alternatives.
Take your time.
No multiple questions, and tough out the silences. So, who do we appoint?
Kit, no contest.
Happy?
Yes. Just one thing bothers me.
What?
The critical incidents. Both of them had to upgrade servers and install PCs. Extraordinary coincidences.
But you always get extraordinary coincidences in training programs.
Yes, I suppose you do.
Shall we have the lights on? Alok Udupadi and get into your subgroups, teams. At least I hope you are awake now. Get into your teams, then I'll tell you what to do. Settle fast. Settle fast. I know I had to take you through a challenging passage. The battle was very intensified today. But now I think we have gone through the difficult passage of the journey. Okay, what I would like you all to do is to look at the contents of the video, one of the most powerful videos on interviewing, behavioral interviewing, and identify the critical elements and share with each other. What are the 4 steps that you need to do in behavioral interviewing and how they are relevant to you? And ideally, pick a position and identify the deal breakers. So first identify the critical elements from the video and then discuss how they are relevant to you. The third one, find a suitable job that you all can agree on and then identify the deal breakers, what you are going to check. So the competency canvas that we developed in the morning, pick the essential ones that you need to check, the most critical attributes, the most critical things you need to comparatively check, the deal breakers. 4 to 5 things, then you can compare with the final shortlisted candidates. That's what they did, isn't it? So discuss with each other. I'm going to give you 10 minutes for this. So today you all became the malnourished team. Where are the others? They have 5. They have. Yesterday we had another malnourished team. This time they are By the way, your attendance sheet.
Points.
I'll explain. Can I have your attention? Looks like there's little confusion, which is good because through confusion only we get clarity. So what I really want is the second part of the question. Pick a particular job which you have done and then imagine that you have gone through the filtering process, eliminating it at different levels, and you have come to the final state where you have two equally good candidates, two equally competent ones, but you have only one vacancy and you have to knock off one. In that sense, what are the critical attributes? The video called them deal breakers. What are the 4 to 5 critical attributes that you are looking at? And then you use those to find the better one. That's the whole idea. And what are those things?
So one is the critical incident we will give the candidate, or then we can ask from him.
You can give the choice to the candidate. Pick a previous event. Because you don't know about that. He or she knows the history better than you.
Cannot be the futuristic things like if this happens.
Can't be hypothetical. It has to be future. It has to be past. No. All what I want is the deal breakers. Just the attributes. It's not a big question, just the attributes. 4 to 5 attributes. Okay? Are we clear now? Okay, 2 more minutes to wrap it up. 2 more minutes. Okay, are we ready to some extent? Shall I finish the first part of the question? Okay? About the video, the contents of the video? Are we ready with the first part of the question?
Yes.
I think it is the clearer part, the second part of the little difficult part. Can I have your attention? Do you need more time or shall we discuss first part of the question? First part? Good, give a big round of applause to everyone. So what are the key lessons from the video? What are the key contents about behavioral interviewing? What is the central message the video is giving? And look at the first candidate, Mark. Up to the point the technical stuff was done, he was brilliant. And once the behavioral aspect was done, he was rejected. See the power of attitude coming into the scene. Power of attitude over aptitude. See the point? This way at the point, it proves the point higher for attitude, isn't it? Alright, shall we ask from the team? This time we go by the physical location, the back benches. Possible Pitakaru? We ask from that team. Yes. Tell us one key lesson that the video showed highlighted.
The main thing,
Yeah.
hide your hand.
Hide your hand. So what does that mean?
That means that
There are three things involved in hiding your hand.
we should not give the clue to the person that what we are expecting.
Don't show the intention of asking a question. Hide your hand. Second one.
And we should not give direct indication that what exactly expecting from you.
In other words, don't give hypothetical questions. Third one. No, same thing in the hide your hand part. Third one. Don't answer your own question. Sometimes you ask the question, you look like very tired, aren't you? Yes, you are tired. No. Some people do that, isn't it? So it's a waste of time. It doesn't serve any purpose. So give consciously time for the candidate to think and answer. Don't rush, don't jump into conclusion. So hide your hand. Don't show why you are asking the question, the intention behind it. That's the smartness of the interviewer. Don't tell the intention. Then you can probe deeply, isn't it? Is that a good point?
Don't ask multiple questions.
Don't ask multiple questions. That also comes there, no? I mean, when you have a barrage of questions, the candidate said yes. And then you don't know whether the yes is for question number 1, question number 2, or question number 3. Ask one question at a time. Good. Shall I give a big hand? The other backbenchers from this side. Anything else? Now they mentioned about hide your hand. Other 3 aspects.
Take your time.
Sorry, take your time. So what does that mean? Don't rush. Don't rush. So it needs an investment of time, quality time. And the manager said, I have a department to run. Interviewing is not my business. I have a business to operate. And what did the lady say? The cost of hiring the wrong candidate, the legal charges of firing the candidate, the charges of getting a replacement, all those things would add to the wrong hiring cost, wrong hiring charges. So hiring is a critical activity where you need to invest time. Give them a big hand. Anything from your side? Shall we go through the sequence? What is the first one? Create a behavioral profile. That's where the competency canvas becomes handy. Second one? Focus on critical intelligence. Don't ask hypothetical question. It has to be a real case happened in the past. Third one? Hide your hand. And the fourth one? Take your time. Any out of those 4, any specific thing that you can mention what others have not yet mentioned?
And don't offer alternatives.
Don't offer alternatives. Do you think this one should be the way or the other one? Then you are narrowing the question. Make it open so that you can reveal, you can see how the candidate revealing himself or herself, isn't it?
And concentrate on I, not we.
I, not we. Sometimes you might be part of a team, that team excelled. You might have been a passenger, but you say we did it together. But you were not the best contributor. So always I and not we, because it's, yes.
For the clarity part, you can give 2 options.
In the sense.
If the candidate is not answering or is confusing of the question, so you can explain the question by giving 2 options.
Yeah, it could be 2 or 3, but the idea is not to narrow it down to the 2, allowing the candidate to think and answer. Right? Give them a big hand. How about from your end? Anything to add?
You just talking don't the idea break the silence.
Yes.
And
Tough out the silence. In other words, sometimes we do it out of courtesy. When someone is and we think he is struggling or she is struggling, and out of sympathy we say, well, that's all right, don't worry, my dear, and so on. But you are really closing the conversation, and you stop getting some valuable inputs from the other party. Tough out the silence, let it go. And the way the lady did that, she was not frowning. She was not. It's not like a CID investigator. It's not like you are a police or criminal investigator. In a gentle way, in a polite way, in a very friendly manner. She was smiling, isn't it?
She said, let the candidate to be embarrassed.
Let the candidate to be embarrassed, not you. Sorry?
Let the silence be his embarrassment.
Exactly. So tough out the silence. Sometimes you need to have patience in order to allow the other person to come up, to open up. And remember the first candidate, he wanted to escape without giving the real delay, isn't it? The hardware installation delay. And he was struggling, and if you look at the facial expressions, what were the facial expressions show? His fault. He didn't want to admit it. He wanted to pass the buck to the line manager. And finally, there's a term called micro expressions. Micro expressions. What are micro expressions? In my CRO, micro expressions. Now, I am also very much alert about your micro expressions. Some of you have showed it. So, in an interview, the micro expressions are important. The way he was showing the hand and then he wanted to avoid telling the truth. The truth was that there was a significant delay, 4 to 5 weeks, or 3 to 4 weeks. And the factory manager realized the gravity of it. He got very upset about it. He thought a few hours. It was not hours, not days, weeks. So that is a huge issue, and he was responsible, but he didn't want to. So that's the smartness of the interviewers. You have to tough out the silence and see through. I remember there was this Indian technical, vice president technical, and I was sitting with him in an interview. He is very smart on this. When a candidate comes and says, I need process improvement in my previous plant, and we modified the plant and our emission rate got reduced to half, and then blah blah, and like a really success story. And then the vice president technical said, he gave a piece of paper. Can you draw the process that was there in that earlier factory? And he gave, and this, I saw the person was scratching the head, and his face suddenly changed. I'm telling you, he could not draw the process properly. So what was he doing? Bluffing, complete bluffing. He was telling as if he was a hero doing something. He didn't even know the fundamental process. He couldn't draw the process. So you had to see through, tough out the silence, and get to the crux of the matter, get to the bottom of it. It's rather sad to say we get carried away by some of those responses because we are struggling for time, and we want to rush and finish. And in doing so, we get the wrong candidate. It's far more dangerous in doing that. Alright, give them a big hand. Anything else from you? Apart from what others said? Any specific things? Some more things are there.
Handling conflicts.
Handling conflicts?
Line managers.
Line managers. In other words, what is the point? There was one deal breaker, which is called what? Consultancy. And then when you have a lot of conflicts and you start accusing line managers, the candidate got lower marks. Crosses for them. Crosses means not having that. The correct sign means having that. So number of not having it versus number of having it. Okay. Anything else apart from that? Some more points with this. Some more salient points. Right, give them a hand at least. Right? And finally,
Focus on critical incidents.
focus on critical incidents. What happened in the past that they mentioned. Anything else but they have not mentioned?
They were also checking on the flexibility and the cost control side.
Flexibility and the cost control. Those are the deal breakers. Okay. Anything about the 4 steps? So shall we identify once again? What is the first one? Create a behavioral profile. Second one? Focus on critical incidents. Third one? And value, and the fourth one, take your all four important. So keep them in your mind. Next time when you have to do an interview, make sure that you implement that. Can do something?
Yes.
100% sure?
Yes.
Are you really committed?
Yes.
I'm saying because I'm asking you.
No.
I thought you would say yes to that as well. Give a big round of applause to everyone. And let's focus on the second question. Shall we take one as a pilot one for us to do a real interview? Who would like to? But it has to be a common one. What is the commonest job that all of you are familiar with? Sorry?
Because he was not there for the
Not there for the
video.
video.
He was not there for the video.
All right. He didn't see the video, but we discussed the content. So what is the job that you all have identified?
We picked up a role of
Operation.
manage operation for a local courier company.
Manage operation for a local courier company. What is the job you all picked up?
Application support engineer.
Application support engineer. What is the job?
Sales manager.
Sales manager. What is the job?
Financial control.
Financial control. What is your job? Job that you all picked? For the second part of the question. To develop the attribute. Sorry? Financial control. So what is the job you all picked? Sorry? Quantity survey. So out of the 6 jobs, what is the job that is more relevant to all of us? Sorry? Okay, shall we narrow it down to 2? Sales. Salesperson, finance person, quantity survey. Out of the 3?
Finance.
Shall I get a weight? Shall I get a vote? How many of you all want the sales person? 1, 2, 3. How many of you all want the finance person? That's an international conspiracy. Okay. How many of you all want financial control?
No, two of them are already selected financial control.
Financial control. How many of you all want quantity survey?
Two teams already selected.
No, I mean I'm trying to in a general way from all of us. How many of you all want quantity survey? How many of you all want financial controller? How many of you all want sales manager? Looks like that's the majority. Okay? And then what are the deal breakers? Key attributes. Sales manager, deal breakers. Negotiation skills. Second one.
Targets.
Target orientation. Third one. Flexibility. Fourth one. Empathy towards customers. Or customer orientation. Okay. Alright. We can do a real mock interview if you want. Would you like to do a mock interview? Who will be in the interviewing panel in checking the behavioral profiling? Who are really into sales? You are into sales, okay? Alright, we will get the HR manager and sales. 2 people. And who would like to be the candidate? Alright? Okay? So we have a candidate and we have 2 interviewers. Okay? Before anything else, shall we have the publicity? So it's 3:30, we'll have the tea and come back and we'll have the mock interview happening.